as he tended to sow his own dissatisfactions like a virus. Stable lads travelling with him went home incubating grouses to their employer's irritation. "It wasn't as if we had any horses on board," Dave Yates was saying, trying to placate. "Just Brett and me." I told all the drivers over and over that picking up hitchhikers while there were horses on board invalidated the insurance. I told them I'd sack any of them instantly if they did that. I'd also told them never, ever to give any lifts at all to anyone, even if the van was empty of horses, and even if they knew the lift beggar personally. "No, Freddie, of course not," they'd said seriously. And now I wondered just how often they'd disobeyed me. "What about the Four Eyes?" I said, my annoyance obvious. "What's actually the matter?" Dave said desperately, "He's dead." "You stupid—" Words failed me. Drowned in anger, I could have hit him, and no doubt he saw it, backing away instinctively, fright rising. All sorts of scenarios presented themselves in rapid succession, none of them promising anything but trouble and lawsuits. "What did he do?" I demanded. "Try to jump off while you were moving? Or did you run him over? And dear Christ, I thought, let it not be that." Dave's surprised shake of the head put at least those fears to rest. "He's in the van," he said, "lying on the seat. We tried to wake him when we got to Newbury, to tell him it was time to get off, and we couldn't. I mean, he's dead." "Are you sure?" They both reluctantly nodded. I switched on the outside lights to flood the tarmac with visibility and went over with them for a look-see. They skittered, one on each side of me, crabbing sideways, making unhappy, deprecating, flapping movements with their hands, trying to shed their guilt, to justify themselves, to get me to understand it was unfortunate, but not, definitely not, as Dave had said, their fault. Dave, of about my own height, 5'9", and age, mid-30s, was primarily a horseman and secondarily a driver, usually travelling with animals that for some reason weren't being sent with enough attendants of their own. I'd seen him and Brett off that morning to pick up 9 two-year-olds locally for a one-way trip to Newmarket, their owner being in the process of transferring his entire string from one perfectly good trainer to another in a typical bad-tempered huff. It wasn't that man's first expensive across-country flounce, no doubt not his last. I'd shipped his 3-year-old colts for him the previous day and was booked for fillies on the morrow. More money than sense, I thought. I knew the 9 two-year-olds had arrived safely in their new home, as Brett had made the customary calls to my office, both when he reached his destination and at the start of his return journey. All the vans were equipped with mobile phones. Their regular reporting calls were a useful routine, even if the older drivers thought one fussy. Fussy Freddie, they might well call me behind my back, but with a fleet of 14 vans, zigzagging round England most days, carrying multi-million fortunes on the hoof, I couldn't afford ignorance or negligent mistakes. The front cabs of big horse vans were always pretty roomy, having to accommodate several attendants besides 1 or sometimes 2 drivers. The cabs of my 9-horse vans could hold 8 people at a pinch, not in Pullman comfort, but at least sitting down. Behind the driver and the 2 front passenger seats, a long padded rear seat usually gave support to 4 or 5 narrow bottoms. On this occasion, its entire length was occupied by one man, lying on his back, feet towards me, silent, and no longer worried about time. I climbed into the cab and stood looking down at him. I'd expected, I'd realised, some sort of tramp, someone with a stubble, smelly jacket, grubby jeans, down on his luck. Not the prosperous-looking middle-aged fat man in a suit, tie, and gold onyx signet ring, with leather-soled polished shoes pointing mutely to heaven. Not a man who looked as if he could have bought other more suitable transport. He was certainly dead. I didn't attempt to feel for a pulse, nor close the sagging mouth or the half-open lids behind the thick-lensed glasses. A rolled-up horse rug had provided him with a pillow. One arm had fallen by his side, the hand with the ring resting laxly on the floor.